Good afternoon. So I thought today would be a great day to talk about Thanksgiving and government shutdowns, as well as my cat that's conveniently showed up and howling in the background to go out the door. So, a few things I want to say. A couple of days will be our longest government shutdown, okay, common knowledge. And it looks like there's not going to be any resolution to this. Now, there's been some talk in the White House from President Trump, that maybe it's time to end this. The Democrats have achieved their goal. They've achieved their goal by trying to hold this hostage. And of course, Republicans as well, and I'm concerned. So why would I bring up Thanksgiving into this? Because, we kill 40 to 50 million turkeys every year, and we're fixing to do that, right? That's approximately about 41 to 46 million turkeys. So what does that have to do with government shutdown? Well, that's about how many people that are in our country right now that require food stamps, because of food insecurity, about 41 to 46 million people. So what occurs to me is the very basis of that holiday, which will be here in about 3 weeks. I don't really see how anybody in this nation can possibly look at ourselves as Americans and celebrate that kind of holiday while we watch people starve to death in 3 weeks because the wealthy are making the decisions for us average Americans. Okay. I honestly hope they boycott restaurants. Grocery stores do not permit anybody from Congress or the House to purchase not even bread and butter. I prefer to see these men suffer. That the kitchen at the White House be closed, the kitchen in Congress, all the kitchens be closed to them. This is going on too much. We're splitting hairs, aren't we? Meanwhile, there's a possibility that a judge is going to get cooperation from the president in regards to tapping emergency funds for food stamps. But this government shutdown, that's another thing about this. That's not a resolution. People are clapping hands and having clap-alongs and sing-alongs, but that's not an end to this. That means that a judge has ordered something and then this continues to go on. Look, reserves only last so long, and food banks are running out of food quick. Their food banks were put in place to service the homeless. Now, let's be clear about something. Anybody that does a Google search would understand very quickly. The country has roughly 300 to 350 million people. Okay, maybe a little bit more. If I'm wrong, post the number in the live chat. So 1/6 of the country has no food or means to get it. And the food banks that normally serve the unhoused and those that cannot, the haves not, they have nothing. I mean, it's tapped out. So what we're discussing is celebrating a holiday in a country where we say we're first class, but yet we act in public view as being acting as a third world country. We cannot run our own government. We look shameless in front of the whole globe right now. That we're unable to manage our housing, we're unable to manage our food, we're unable to even run city government, and then we're going to make a mockery of the country going into the very holiday that we've celebrated, 300 years, and call ourselves, have clap-alongs and sing-alongs that there's no fucking food on the table because of insecurity and complete dismay through both party lines. If people are not going to be eating for Thanksgiving, I won't. My animals will. And that's another thing I want to bring to light. Let's use a bit of common sense. If people don't have food, neither do their animals. And one of the most egregious things, there's 3 things in my world you can do to earn the lowest mark, a straight ticket to hell. 1, not feed or abuse a senior. Okay, that's 1. Animals or an injustice to a woman. We as a country, We might vote these folks in, but there's a day and a time when people in this country are going to get sick of this bullshit. Now, let's make no indecision here. These people in the Congress will go on to their house with 20-foot Christmas trees, gifts that are wrapped in paper that none of us could even afford. They will invite their constituents over to celebrate 600-year-old fucking wine and golden turkeys. They will have a full staff like they're running a fucking plantation, okay? And they will be served wine and dine 8 courses, while the rest of the country will pony up the cash after we're done paying for a government that don't even fucking work. I'm paying for taxes into a government that doesn't even work at this point. They're freeloaders. The government's completely a fucking freeloader. It's doing nothing. It's accepting my money out of my check, but it's not doing a damn thing. And it'd like very much so we can have a clap along for Thanksgiving. We can go out and have a big fucking celebration that we will bring people nothing but insecurity to roughly 50 million people or more. And that's just the ones that need the food stamps. It's not even the ones that their pride hurts so much they won't even accept that stuff. Then we're going to drain, as we are doing now, every food bank in the nation. It ain't going to take long. 50 million people is going to drain it, okay? This is not a crisis where we're dealing with 5 or 10,000 homeless in each city. We're dealing with 50 states and 50 million people. And let's do quick math. About 1/6 of the population of America that needs the food benefit that don't have it. And so what's to celebrate? Why could you honestly sit there with a fucking turkey right now and clap and sing along to that? Is that reasonable to you? Or you're still paying off that check, aren't you? Some of you have already been furloughed. Okay? You're still paying for these bastards. The only thing they're doing is their lips are moving. So we're not going to spend any time trying to figure out and delegate who's responsible. They're all responsible, and they will quite enjoy their Thanksgiving right in your face. It's upsetting to me because I also know within this kind of insecurity for this much of the nation means there are a lot of animals that just go without food flat out. It's not to mention children. Nobody's thinking about this stuff. They're just doing. That's the problem with elections. Favoritism. An election is just another cool word for favoritism. We chose to favor one party. We chose to favor one politician, and here we are. So what level of depravity should we arrive at before we see that we're not so far from a third world country when we indenture roughly 1/6 of the nation into food insecurity, and all these decisions lie in the hands of a few hundred individuals with an immense amount of power and money. A few hundred at best, making the decision of whether you eat, live, sleep in this nation. It's just a few hundred people. So I'm going to go in the comments here, and I hope that this upsets people, because it upsets me just thinking about it. Just thinking about, the circumstances behind my own pets and animals and my family, and even when my mother passed away in January. I don't need anybody to be sorry about that. They offered her $12. I often picked up the bill for the majority of her elder stay in my home, and I hadn't any problem with that at all. Mom always was. She wasn't the best person in the world, but she was my mother. So how you put that, But, I footed that bill, and I wish I could have done more. All right, so let's go into comments before we get too serious here. Good morning, good afternoon. This video is specifically what I've designed it to be, and that's to bring light to what we already are keenly aware of. I'm not inventing anything new today. The only thing I'm doing is trying to consider the humanity of others and whether or not there's any love and joy in trying to celebrate a holiday that is in stark contrast and complete confliction of what it means to be an American, or to serve those that have Christian or ethical morals, ethics, or standards. We're failing in every possible way right now. Sheila Davison, 7475, hello and good afternoon. Katie Miller, clap along. I appreciate that. That means clapping hands. For those that don't know, Karen knows. Good evening, Jay, chat, and chat. Thank you. Got a small crowd here. I enjoy it. You guys keep me company. Y'all allow me to get the devil out of me when I'm talking, because I always start my videos with something fiery and talking real shitty. But that's the fun of having your own channel. You can talk about what you like. All right, Daniel or Clark Lewis. Good evening or good afternoon. Bunny's bun. I like that. 3 claps for that. 3 hand symbols. JB Young. Hello and good afternoon. Sherry Richmond, 9761. It's just another day and Thanksgiving. You're right about that. But there's a lot of us. You're right. You're so right about that comment. It's just another day. But let's be honest here. It's really not. There are lots of Americans that are very cookie cutter. They get married because that's something you do when you get older, right? They have kids because that's also something that you religiously just do. You don't need a good reason for it. It's just part of living life and doing it. Almost everything is cookie cutter that Americans do. But Thanksgiving holds another thing, and I think that it would be quite appropriate to read what the real definition of that is and why we so carelessly celebrate that. True, it's another day, and true, we don't need to really kill 50 million turkeys. But what coalesces here is we cannot celebrate that in this country while we know that as a direct result of our politics that we're going to deprive 1/6 of the population of food. Okay, that's an issue. I don't give a damn about turkeys. I don't care if anybody here is thankful at all. It's just another invention by America. But what it represents, the same thing that politics represent in difficult times. It's what it represents. We're not talking about immigrants that just came to the country and are stealing food stamps. We're talking about American citizens. And I have a feeling this pandemic, well, I say pandemic. See, I'm getting old when I mix things up. But I think that this government shutdown, I think that it's not over with. Tuesday makes it the longest in history at midnight, and then we carry on. So far, the only people that are thrown in the towel are the people that follow the Democrats or follow the Republicans. Another one that's thrown his towel in, I believe that President Trump is thrown in his towel and is requesting an end to this as well. So we have the followers for both parties, the president, but the little boys and girls with all the money and all the games that we voted in this damn thing, they've not decided what they're going to do. And so until they get their way, it makes little difference to anybody, whether you have housing, food, or anything. They don't have that insecurity. They have 15 different ice boxes in the mansion. So they have an ice box for each day of the week. So maybe we should ask our congressmen and the people in the House and people in Congress that they open up their kitchen and be a food bank. That every day, additionally, this goes on, that we liquidate their checking accounts as to be appropriate so they can understand the true level of depravity that we're going to engage in here. So we're the second day of November. So a couple more weeks here, 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks. We're going to roll right on into Thanksgiving for those that celebrate it or not. And there's really nothing to celebrate about that. And I'm just wondering, how far do we really need to go with this before it all comes to an end? Like all good hurricanes, as it blows through town, just like a tornado that rips through your town, just because something's over doesn't mean the damage is over. We have even further to go just to clean up the mess. And then at some point, after we've all had a really shitty Christmas, then somewhere in early next year, we might be able to begin again as a country and start becoming operable. So when this ends, it doesn't mean anything's really done. It just means that we see the damage of what it does and the effect on interest, the overreaching effects of inflation, those people out there that want to price gouge. You got to be careful this day. If you work in a restaurant or a store and you accidentally price something wrong, you very well could get shot or beat up or otherwise harassed, because at this point, everybody's sick. Nobody wants to be ripped up anymore. This game has been dragging on since the pandemic. We have been in a state of hell since the pandemic. The gas has not let up. Everything's double bubble now. It's double bubble, everything. You roll through Taco Bell, you're going to spend $58 feeding yourself. I mean, it's like we double bubble the country, and we're no longer stopping. Everybody's robbing everybody. I mean, it's seriously, it's I'm watching this in stores, and then we now have stores in my town where they are so good for themselves that they don't even put the fucking price on things anymore. So I suppose that's the wealthy checkout. Don't ever offend me. If I walk into your store and you don't have prices, then somebody needs to burn the building down, okay? Because that's outrageous. Just shop and we'll give you a price later. Nowhere else on the planet could you pull some shit like that and not have your shop burned down. And these gas stations in Houston, they need to burn it down. That's crazy. You go and you bring the candy bar up there, they want $9.95. What you smoking, partner? What are you smoking? And we've already had that discussion behind simple services. The plumber wants $10,000. The maid, the housekeeper, she needs $68 an hour. She's now running at a price level similar to a licensed dentist. She's requiring $200 to run the duster in the room. It's the same person you might consider to run a children's party. No credentials whatsoever, commanding a price of $200 an hour. We completely flipped out in this country. So I'm fed up. I'm fed up, and I'm breathing it out in this video because it's the elephant in the room, man. We're just getting robbed every which way. And I see all this shit, man. Thanksgiving my ass. You know what, man? Look, ain't no way you're gonna sit there and carve up no turkey and watch all these people go without food, regardless if you care about what the holiday is or not. You got people crying about Halloween. Oh, well, I put out a basket of candy and they stole it. And I made a response. They should have stole the bowl too. These are tough times. So let me get on to the comment section here. Marilla 5, you are better than the news channels. I thought I was doing a good job of lying. All right. JB Young, hello, good afternoon. Sherry Richmond. It's just another day. Thanksgiving. Yep. Absolutely diabolical. Yep. I would agree with that. Stephanie Hill. Hello. Good afternoon. Daughter of Zion. I like that name. Aren't they going to rule on opening the government on November 19th? A week before Thanksgiving and a couple of weeks before Christmas. By then, the villagers will have gas and matches. There isn't going to be any discussion. The Capitol Hill will be in flames. Okay? It'll be in flames. And nobody trying to discuss anything more. This cannot go on much longer. Nobody's going to care at that point. The country cannot run without a government. It's not even supposed to run without for a month. And now we're talking about there isn't an end in sight at all. There's some discussion, but it's not met the petty rules that are required by either party. And along party lines, there's no discussion of ending anything. We're just going to keep clapping along as we go straight into bankruptcy as a country. I don't know that to be true. I'm just saying it because it sounds really nice right now, to say something really shitty. So I'm saying that. All right, move back now. Stephanie Hill, hello. Karen O's, real talk. You bet. JB Young, and yet he has a Brazilian dollar Gatsby party at Milwaukee. What's all right? At least we know Trump can get down in his 80s. I hope he can shake a leg when he's 100. If you're gonna go down with the what was that the Titanic? The orchestra. Sometimes people are too rich because if you can keep them on the Titanic and they're playing the violin as the boat goes down, nobody's allowed to go and jump off and save their life because the wealthy are paying so much they can get you kill yourself. So as the Titanic goes down, all the poor people continue to play the violin because they've been paid to do so Otherwise, there'll be repercussions. This reminds me of that. It's the Titanic kind of going down. And we're going to, we'll go through this episode and come back on around. We'll abuse everybody that's paid these people to be in office. They're going to abuse us all. And then we have no choice to keep them there. And they're going to do it again. I'm just suggesting that for our holiday season from Thanksgiving to Christmas that they not have a Christmas and Thanksgiving, that people in the House and Congress be forced to throw all their fucking gifts in the fireplace and burn them up, that they give all their food away or have it taken from them like little girls and boys, and we begin to liquidate assets. If you can't make a decision, are you going to fight for fruitless cause? The thing is, the consequence of staying shut is far greater than it is to get what they want. So at this point, when you see that, you think, okay, these people are not very smart. You're sticking to your guns. But the thing of it is, the effect of government shutdown doesn't affect the people that actually run it. It only affects all of us. They're still driving the Mark 9083 Rolls Royce back to the $94 million house where there's a full plantation staff to serve them for Thanksgiving. Do any of you guys have the Mark 94,483 Benz? Will you be returning to a triple turkey where you have a person to put your socks on? You'll have a maid for each room. Well, you'll do clap-alongs while your wife is wearing approximately 18 pounds of gold. She's got diamonds in her eyelids. She just had a pedicure for $497. That's what they'll be doing. What will we be doing? Well, I have a good idea. We should purchase gas cans, and there's a sale for matches at Walmart. And maybe it's time to have a bonfire at your local congressman's house. I don't mean to go really do that, okay? So if you're an extremist, please don't run with that. I don't need anybody having a weenie roast at a congressman or a senator's house right now. Please don't go burn shit down, but it sure feels good thinking about that. It'd be like, hey, man, your house is on fire. We nailed the door shut. Can you make a decision now? Or would you like third-degree burns? You'll be eating hospital Jell-O for Christmas. Make a decision. Or we're going to make one for you and your family. It's called insolvency. I know that's mean-spirited, but look, this is insufferable. We're living in a pre-pandemic inflation on top of every other stupid thing that's going on. And while we are and have solved major problems in our country lately, we still have not solved the core problem. And that's just being a good American. And of course, we're not paying people. Look, half the people that run the flights that are going to take you guys on your airplane to a Turkey somewhere in another state, a lot of these people at the airports are calling in sick, about half of them. So unless you're going to take Greyhound down to see Ma in West Virginia, you're probably not going to be able to get a flight. But the bigger concern here, guys, is that we may end up you might be unwrapping your dollar store gift under the tree if government shutdown continues through November. And I'm not hearing anything that sounds like, hey, we're going to stop this stuff. So I was already kind of keenly aware they were probably going to beat their old record because that's just what they do. But I had no idea that this party was going to continue. And when the national news and all the news agencies don't even know, you're in trouble. Because normally they will find some way to lie and make it bigger or smaller than it is. That's what national news does, whether it be Fox News or CNN. But even they don't know because nobody knows because nobody wants to quit. So all I got to say is with a $500 billion ballroom, we're spending that money on that ballroom. Where are all these now? So rather than think of me approaching President Trump about his $500 billion ballroom and private donations, it's not even about that. Where are all these private companies right now when we need food? They're quick to do things to help their company and slide into the White House and get favors and other shit like the old days. But Do you see any of these billionaires jumping out in their limo right now to help anybody for Thanksgiving or food? Do you see them doing that? Do you see them paying for anybody's paycheck? No, of course not. But they had $500 billion. Now they sucked the money off the back of Americans in this country, the working class. They sucked all that money out of us, didn't pay taxes on it, hid it in Ireland. Okay. And now they got money for the ballroom at the White House because it helps them politically move their agenda, but they don't have a fucking dime for the 50 million people that ain't got food right now. So that's what it means to be an American today, to be a thief, a crook, a fool. And then if I hear anybody on the sidewalk go, oh, that's a third world country. You're living in one. We're in fact no better than any other country at this point. We're starting to look like a second and third world country. We can't even solve our own fucking problems. And I will say, President Trump has made some real big stabs at it too. You know, he shoots down every boat. He builds, gigantic walls. But this isn't about him at this point. It's about all the others. And we're not arguing a crisis of money over whether or not we're having an invasion. We're talking about tax credits. So each party's wanting to do it, but it's at the cost of the middle class people. So the people making the decision aren't even affected by this stuff. They'll go on again to take the Mark 94 8,483 Lincoln Rolls Royce back to the house with a 15-foot staff, $94 million mansion, smoke a $600 cigar, sit under the Christmas tree, 15 turkeys, be served with gold silverware in front of the bay window and look down the hill to the rest of us. They don't give a shit. They've already been paid. They've already robbed everything. They're still sucking the dimes and nickels out of your check every day, but they're sitting up there. They can't decide nothing. Well, it's pretty comfortable when you can run your air conditioning 24 hours a day on zero, right? You make all the decisions with the country, so you don't really got to do shit, do you? You've already robbed us. Every day we go to work, they take a little more out the check, but the government ain't running. We're still paying. Maybe we should stop when the government stops. So that means that we no longer have any tax coming out of our check. You don't want to work, bitch, then hey, we ain't going to pay. Real talk about this. And I don't care if anybody views me as professional, unprofessional. I've run Section 8 consulting and as a federal consultant for 26 years. But now that I'm come close to retiring, I can say a whole lot of things. Used to, I had a limit. I had a regulator on my mouth that would prevent me from saying a lot of things, but not anymore. And I'll eventually publish a book, and it's going to derail a whole lot of people through government. It's going to derail several hundred housing authorities. It's going to be a diabolical map of corruption. Many of these things that I've withheld through YouTube as well, because it wouldn't have been in the interest of my company. But since I'm near the end, it's just like President Trump. There's one thing me and that man have in common right now. We're both very serious about what we think and what we do. But here's the deal. When you're at the end of your term and you're at the end of retirement, you ain't got shit to lose. Look me in my eyes and tell me I don't have anything. I don't got nothing to lose. And so all the stuff I've had to suck up all these years and scandals, ripoffs, scams, and con artistry by PHAs, HUD, and everybody else. Well, I'm fixing to write a book that's going to melt it all. I've seen so much. And a lot of what you guys fundamentally believe, you're being spoon-fed that stuff. It's not really what's happening in the background. And the people that you blame are really not the ones that blame. They're only minor crooks compared to the ones that will be exposed. And I've been starting in the past week or two to start giving you that delight so you can better understand the internal mechanisms behind food stamps, government programs, housing, and much more. A lot of these wealthy people that buy up all these buildings, want to rent everything and run the rent up to the roof. There's a bigger story behind that. Stories behind Fannie Mae and Fannie Mac. There's not much difference between organized crime / the mafia and our U.S. government. There isn't. The difference is one has the ability to make laws to make it legal and the other doesn't. Otherwise, they operate very much in a similar fashion. And at the end of the day, these people are still the people you see in the grocery store and you live by. Many of these senators and congressmen, while they dictate and give edicts that can affect the welfare of this entire country, while they haven't a care in the world. Now, I will say that some senators and some congressmen do have a heart. Many of them do. But it only takes a couple of them, man, to make it real bad. And it's influential. People that at that level of con artistry, they can influence good people into doing bad things. And this is what I'm seeing play out. Because the real story of this government shutdown is a handful of actors that's poisoning the whole system. Absolutely poisoning it. Their influence is too much. It's like a prison. There are politics and there's prison politics. There are politics that we understand as Americans, and then there's politics that internally go on inside of both Congress and in the House. And those politics are the things that are operating where you have a handful of people that are haymakers that are controlling it, the key holders, and they're influencing and manipulating and forcing everybody else to either cooperate or you'll see your last days in Congress or the Senate. So you've got a handful of people that are poisoning the whole deal. It's just like a hen house. You got a few people in there that have all the seniority that pretty much choke down everything that's good about what a government how it should operate. And that's what you guys are seeing play out right now. And it's on both sides of the aisle. Don't be fooled by that. We can preach all the Christian morals and everything else. Both sides have got it. The devil's in both of them. And it's a large part of why this government shutdown is going on. How would I know this? I've dealt with federal programs for a long time, and I've dealt with the very people that are responsible for those decisions through my own job. And after a while, they become like psychopaths. They get used to the collateral damage that they create, and they become desensitized. In other words, for the benefit of the country, it's okay to assassinate a few Americans. But think about that in terms of making decisions. Well, it's okay if we burn a quarter of America and just tell them to just go die somewhere, as long as we're servicing at least 3/4. You see, the problem with that is it's not for all Americans. It's just for some. Wake up, folks. Even though those things being said, it's still not a great excuse for any of us to go and behave like they do, though I still think the gas and matches are a great idea for Christmas. So rather than break the law, mail your senator and your congressman a match and a gas can and remind them why you elected them. Just don't imply any threats, okay? Don't be extreme. If you are extremist, please go have a psychiatric visit. Matter of fact, just print out a picture of gas and matches, I don't want y'all going to get yourself in trouble. But as I roll up this video as a really shitty carpet, I'll say this. We're going to set the standard for this country as we get nearer Thanksgiving and Christmas. And the message is very clear worldwide. If we cannot care for our own people, if we can't feed 1/6 of our population, and we can't even run a government, then we are nothing more than a third world country. Despite all our money, we operate in logic and in ethic as a third world country. We have no fine appreciation for anybody or anything when we act this way. And we're setting an example where countries don't even want to mess with us anymore. We preach such tall language, such proudness as Americans, but our government is painting a very different picture for the whole world. And this isn't about the president. This is about the people that truly control shit out here. It's Congress and the House. It's not about the Supreme Court. They only get final decisions. We're talking about the real makers, the ones when every president leaves, these people still keep in these offices. It's an unfortunate circumstance. And so you have to ask, what does it really mean to be an American anymore? Where we no longer care about the sick, the homeless, the elderly, or even whether or not people get food. I think that all Americans, at least those of us that work in the middle class, even the low class and the no class, I think we've got it right. I think we haven't changed much, but our government has. And I think it's a handful of people that poison the whole well. And I think it's in both parties. And I think these people need to be rooted out before they end up destroying everything that has made this country great for 300 years. And as we approach Thanksgiving and Christmas, it's a great time to think about that. Will we take 300 years of politics, pain, misery, and war and throw it in a fucking toilet because a few people want to poison the well? Not only that, but you destroy any attempt of anybody in any other country to view us anything other than warmongers in a third world country. Money don't make everything, and it certainly does not make the class of any places. There are lots of countries that have very little money that are better places to live than this damn country. And I'm American, and I love America, and I'm glad that God saw fit that when I was a baby to be born here. There's a lot of places that are tougher to live, but it doesn't mean that they're worse in character. There are lots of countries with more character than our country, and there are lots of places that are much longer. Go ask our British friends that used to be Romans. Our Europeans, those guys have been around a minute, and I'm pretty sure if we traced all of our lineage, most of us would come from somewhere in Europe. I know ours is French and German. So here we go as I digress into many branches of the tree, no longer talking about the same topic. So we need to fix the food insecurity for these homes before the holidays, because that's what anybody that has even one morsel of moral and ethic would do. We also need to consider the fallout that these people also have pets and animals. And then rather than blame them and saying, oh, well, they can't feed themselves and they don't deserve to have a pet, well, that just means that you're a psychopath for saying that. Partnership between humans have been around since the Egyptian days. It never required much money. But when you make things too tough, then you're going to cause a lot of pain and misery for a lot of animals. And we continue through inflation and other things, we're going to see a lot more of this. I'm already watching all the silly bubbleheads that decided they wanted to have a toy from the dollar store, went down to the pound and bought pets during the pandemic, and then put them out the door the minute life changed, got better. And now we have hundreds of cats and dogs with no home that were previously air conditioned, fed, and watered daily with clean water, and now they've been left out like trash. I also think those people need Section 9. If I made the laws in the country regarding pets and animals, there'd be a lot of people in prison. There really would. And I would make them pay. It wouldn't even be the end there. Everything that they did, I would have done to them. Thank God I'm not a dictator, because I can tell you, you'd be on an electric mattress. And not till I solved every ounce of pain and misery you delivered on those animals, would you even be allowed to die. You would get double to nothing. You would thank me for Canaan. That's caring. And that's showing people love, even when they got a loose screw. You get what you get, right? So, man, this has been a dark video, but I hope we solve our problems before Thanksgiving and the holidays, and I hope that nobody really has to go without too much food. We still have the homeless to worry about as well. A lot of you guys don't want to do anything these days politically in terms of homeless, but we fail to remember something. Everybody was somebody at some time. And if we get to a point as Americans that we're making decisions on homeless where we no longer give a shit at all about housing them or helping them, then we've lost all ambitions of having any morals. We're completely lost to the darkness. That's when the country's destroyed. There's no morals or ethics left when we start reaching these points where these are just disposable trash. We can't even recognize that they're human anymore. And so, that's why it's important to understand that the homeless also keep checks and balances for those that have, whether little or a lot. And anybody that has any morals, ethics, or standards, the best way to know you've got any is how you treat those that have less than you. Okay? Keep that in mind. The holidays aren't always about the haves. It's also remembering those that don't. For those of you who are Christians, you'd understood that by the Quran, by the Bible, even the Jewish Bible understood that. It was never the goal to enrich yourself. It was to help those that didn't. But as a nation, we're forgetting these things, aren't we? Now it's me and my Gucci. Oh, look at that filthy beast at the light. Why don't we throw that sucker in a dump and throw him in prison? He doesn't deserve to breathe the same air as me. We've really lost our nuts with that stuff out here in this country. When we start comparing people to a completely different subclass and no longer granting the status of being even human and in view of politics and everything else, that's a serious problem. So if you ever want to know you're gonna burn in hell, that's a great way to know. Ask yourself how you treat the homeless, how you view people. That's a good indicator how well things are going to go for you during your life today and when it ends. Encourage you guys to think about that. That's the smartest thing you can do through these holidays. You have already been given so much. Look to your neighbor, see if you can do something for them. If it ain't your neighbor, do something for these animals. There are lots of them that are homeless too, because we have a bunch of airheaded children during the pandemic that decided they wanted to have a play toy. And the minute that they no longer are able to be home anymore all the time, their little play toy, they dispose of them like they bought these animals at the dollar store. I would love to strangle those people. Shameless. And I look on Nextdoor, the app. You got people, oh, well, we're fixing to move. We no longer have time for Bob or Cat. We've had him 5 years. We'd like a fee as well. We'd like you to pay for the pleasure of giving away our cat because we never had any morals. We're just filthy, nasty, have no moral, no ethic, nothing, little children. We needed to be super self-centered and only worry about our own ass, and now we're going to kick our cat out. So that's the world we live in, and we call ourselves American. I know it ain't much better everywhere else, but look, we're competing for the bottom ranks here. We got to do better. So I'm calling you guys to think about yourself tonight. Before you close your eyes, think about who you are. Think about your political views, but also, instead of politics tonight, try to take that out your head. Why don't you think about what it means to be a human? Think about your ethics. Think about your morals. Okay? Learn to separate those two things. Politics is great for a bar or even to shoot the breeze when you want to have something serious and fun to talk about, I suppose. But don't ever put your ethics and your morals in the same basket with politics, because you run the danger of dismissing human beings in the process of doing that. And to believe so much in politics as if it were a religion that you're willing to put people out on the street or not even feed them on the basis of who you elected, that's nuts. You lost your ability to be a human. You're now thinking like a drone. You lost all reality, all grip of what it means at all to be a human. Do you think those cavemen were walking around, if there ever were any, with those big old sticks and sitting around the fire, and then they decided their politics and they started stabbing and killing each other? Do you think they worried about politics? No. When they had a problem, they whacked another dude over the head with a bat, and that was the end of it. Okay? Stop letting your politics dictate your whole life, okay? If one party serves your interests somewhat, that's great. But if you start making total decisions about humankind behind politics that has nothing to do with whether or not you're making a good use of your morals and ethics, that's terrible. It means you have exceptionally poor self-center. You've got a lot to learn in life. And if you're young, you'll figure it out, because when you start getting your 40s, 50s, and 60s, there's going to be a lot of lonely days out there for you, a lot of tough days. You look back on just a little piece of shit you used to be, and you'll start thinking about what you can do before you exit this old planet. It's if you have anything left to you, if you're not completely poisoned. So quit letting the country and its politics dominate the way that you treat people. That's ridiculous. All right, guys, I super enjoyed talking with you. I'm sorry this video is so dark, but I mean, it would be reminiscent to not disclose and for us not to have a coffee table talk. Look at my big fat face, right? Listen to me smack my lips, but to just try to remember, it's just a lot of stake. all the stuff that we talked about tonight is connected. And I hope you guys take a serious interest in it before you lose your soul, if you even have one. All right, guys, let's hope that all this comes to an end and that we all try to enjoy a little bit of the holidays. And for those that have not, some of you should reach out, same as me, and try to do better for other people. It's not always about you and your money and your job. Sometimes it's just about the next man. Do something for other people, okay? Or help save an animal. All right, good night, and y'all have a great day.